Okay, so
Nice.
awesome. We're recording this webinar, so you will receive a link to watch the recording tomorrow. So if you miss anything, never fear, you'll have access to that afterwards. If you want to share it with someone, your student, whoever, then you'll be able to do that. A little bit of housekeeping. We will have a Q&A at the end of the session. We'll be going over some information first, but if you think of questions, feel free to please just drop those in the Q&A box. If we answer them during the webinar, no big deal, but that way you won't forget them, and then we'll get to those at the end of the webinar. If there's anything super, specific to you and your situation, we can maybe follow up offline on an email or something, but questions, I'm happy to answer. Let's get started. So we'll introduce ourselves first.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Carly Hill. That is a photo of me on the screen with a say llama or alpaca. I'm not an animal expert, but it was in Machu Picchu on a Broadreach program that I did way back in one of the earliest years I started working here. I began at Broadreach in 2013. So this is something like my 11th summer helping with our programs all over the world. Previously, I was a travel agent, so travel is my specialty, but I do all kinds of different things here now, including lots of conversations with families about our programs, the ins and outs, and what to expect. So I'm happy to share some of that with you today.
Awesome. Yeah, and my name's Bethany. That's me and my little pup, Rosie, the beach in North Carolina, not as exotic as Carly's picture, unfortunately. But yeah, I've been with Broadreach not quite as long as Carly. I joined in 2021, sorry, 2021. So this will be my fourth summer, I guess, if you count by summers as we tend to do here.
Mhm.
Before that, I lived abroad in Spain for many years. I worked in schools there, working with students, teaching, and then eventually transitioned to work with older students, study abroad before moving back to North Carolina, where we live now, and love working with Broadreach students and helping them kind of discover their passions and explore the world. So I do a lot of the marketing communications here. So the social media accounts and organizing webinars like this and emails. So I'm kind of the face behind all that.
All that good
A
stuff.
little bit about Broadreach.
Cool. Yeah, we have been leading students on adventures around the world for over 30 years now. Our first ones were in 1993. This picture on the left we use a lot. If you haven't seen it yet anywhere, it's one of our favorites. It's got our founder Carlton over on the right side and our current owner and director Mott's on the left side with longer hair than he has currently. That is on one of the very first Broadreach programs, which was a kayaking trip in the British Virgin Islands. Since then, we've really expanded and have run programs all over the world, a lot of them now out of our base in St. Martin in the Caribbean, including a lot of the good like beginning Broadreach programs. But we also have programs in much more far-flung destinations like Bali and Fiji and Costa Rica and South America and other places as well. So we're really all over the world helping students explore different areas of the world, different cultures, and their different passions along the way.
Awesome. All right, so let's get straight into it. So the topic of the webinar is your student ready for Broadreach? I know as parents, we want to strike the right balance between challenging our student to push their boundaries and grow and learn, and then also wanting to like keep them safe and keep them with us. And so kind of striking the right balance between those two things. So some signs that they might be ready to kind of move beyond a traditional summer camp and go with Broadreach. I'd say the first one, if they've had that traditional camp experience before, maybe one summer, multiple summers that they've had at a sleepaway camp, spending time away from home, and they've expressed maybe that they're ready to do something a little bit different. I think listening to your student and letting them be the leader is a great way, a great cue to look for when you're thinking of something like Broadreach. I think another great sign is if they've done travel before with maybe with the family on vacation and have enjoyed that experience. A lot of times, it can be there can be some nerves and apprehension before doing travel, even I think myself before a big trip. But if they've done it before and ended up enjoying themselves, then taking that next step to be maybe traveling on their own to an international location, it's a good sign that they might be ready to handle that next little challenge, that next step. Another thing I would say would be an openness to new environments, as well as new experiences, learning new skills, new challenges. So I think everyone, it's normal to be apprehensive before something like that, but if they're open in general to those new environments, new cultures, learning about things, and show an eagerness when they do have an opportunity to travel or to go somewhere new is a good sign that they'll be ready to, I think, accept this new experience. There's bound to be different routines, things like that. So knowing that they'll be able to be adaptable a bit and get used to the kind of new normal with some support. Things will look different, especially if you're doing a boat-based program, you've never lived on a boat. That's going to be different. Things like showering is going to be a little bit different. Cooking is going to be in tighter corners, maybe, or maybe your students never cooked a meal before. But don't worry, we'll have support. They will have instructors to kind of show them the ropes and help get them used to the new environment. But if you think they'll be able to adapt to something like that with that support, that's a good sign. Another thing I would say would be some level of emotional readiness. So if they're comfortable handling situations independently, and making some decisions on their own, or if they need help, if they're able to identify a source of help. So they'll always have our instructors, a Broadreach instructor on hand to help out. So, but if you think they'll be able and willing to advocate for themselves, go to their instructors when they need that help, then they'll be much more likely to be successful on an experience like Broadreach. And finally, I would just say kind of two things lumped together maybe would be having interest in something different, something more specific, like the types of programs that we offer. If they're really interested in marine biology, if they really want to try scuba diving or sailing, if they have certain maybe academic or professional goals, like they think they want to be a veterinarian or a marine biologist, um, something like Broadreach, I think, can really be great to help them connect to their interests, explore those a little bit, see if that's right for them, and then connect with like-minded, other teens that are into that, as well as instructors that might be able to serve as mentors for them, looking into those fields as, whether it's a passion or potentially career or an academic field of study. I would say probably just as
Awesome.
important as that, the student being ready, is if you are ready as a parent.
Yeah, that's important. And I think that we speak with a lot of parents who express this. I'm really nervous. My students really excited about it. They're gung ho, and I feel nervous about it. And I think there's some things to know to help you decide as a parent if it's something that you're ready for. It is absolutely normal to feel nervous. I think all of our parents feel nervous to some extent, and it helps them to know that we are not new at this. We've been doing this for 30 years, well longer than any of our students have been alive at this point. Um, and so through that 30 plus years, we've really developed not only a lot of communication guidelines for our families so that they know what to expect from us in terms of communication, but also the sort of risk reward. It might make you feel nervous, but what students come away with from our programs, especially the soft skills, it's not just the scuba diving and the experiences that they're having, but the confidence and teamwork skills and responsibility and leadership, things like that, that they're developing through the structure of our programs, I think are worth the nerves. Um, we design our programs to be an appropriate next step from summer camp. And so there will be some familiarity for students who have
Uh-oh. I don't know if it's me or Carly that, can you hear me, Carly? Sorry about that. I don't know. Can anyone
So
hear me?
sorry.
Okay, there she is. I wasn't sure if it was my internet or yours.
No, it just cuts out from my computer for some reason, but it sounds like it's okay now.
Yeah, you were
Okay.
saying that it's an appropriate next step
Yes.
after summer camp.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So it is a big step, of course, to go abroad for students who haven't done that before as part of their summer camp. But we design that with the students' ages in mind. We're not designing programs for adults, we're designing programs for teenagers, including middle school students. And so the structure and the familiarity of our program design is meant to be an appropriate next step after summer camp. They're going to have some of the same sorts of
Sorry.
I can still hear you.
I don't understand.
I think we can still hear you. It's just your video that's cut out.
Okay.
So I guess,
It's disconnecting my laptop from the desktop monitors for
oh,
some reason, and I don't really understand why. Um, I'll move on if you can hear me. The
yes.
Something that's important or that a lot of parents ask about is our cell phone policy. So, although we maybe didn't have cell phones when we were teenagers, of course, that's something that's common now. And it's important for us, for students to be able to be engaged and immersed in the experience that they're having. We do not have like a total communication blackout like I've heard some summer programs do, where they just really don't have any communication to the outside world. But we do collect students'
Okay. Let me cut out again. Sorry. She was saying we collect students' phones on the first day of program, I believe. Um, so we recommend that students have the phones for a travel day. Of course, it makes it a lot easier if they can get in touch with anyone, if with you or with us, should they need it. But we collect them on the first day of program, and students we schedule weekly calls home, so that you'll be able to be in touch with them that way. And then we'll also be in touch with instructors. And you can be in touch with us 24/7. We have an emergency line during the summer if you need to connect. So you are always able to contact us at Broadreach HQ, and then we can in turn reach out to your students on program. Was there anything else you wanted to add there, Carly?
No, can you hear me on this one?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay, cool. I'm just switching over to my laptop instead of that.
Perfect.
This should work. It's not connecting to anything. Um, yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. I think it's important for parents to know that there is an open line of communication. We're in touch with our instructors at any time of any day. If there's any kind of emergency, we can always put you in touch with your student. But developing those soft skills goes along with a little bit of disconnecting. They're able to focus on the experience that they're having and not be able to like text their friends and their family and everybody on, like they're used to. There's no Wi-Fi on our boats, so that's something people ask about a lot. And so that is also naturally limiting their communication.
Awesome. All right. Let's take a look at some of our recommended programs for first-time students. If it will- There we go. So keep in mind, you may be interested in a specific program as a first-time Broadreach parent or student. So it's not that you have to, but these ones I think lend themselves a little bit particularly well to a first-time student on Broadreach. Hopefully, today is just the day of technical difficulties, I think. Figures.
Uh,
Oh my gosh.
we're still here.
We're still here.
It's
Sorry
happened
about
to
that.
all of us, even
I
in
think
2024.
it seems
The
like it's,
computers still rule.
yeah. Anyways, talking about some recommended programs for first-time Broadreach students. So one program that works great we have a middle school session that's actually unfortunately full for 2024, and 2 high school sessions is our Bahamas Veterinary and Wildlife Care is the name for high school, and Island Wildlife Explorer is the name for middle school students. It's great if your student is interested in animals or potentially becoming a veterinarian. It's not as academic as our Costa Rica longer veterinary experience. It's also, they're staying in one place in the Bahamas, unlike that one that you're traveling multiple places. The Bahamas is relatively, if you're in the United States, close and relatively easy to get to. And it's more, it's less academic, like I mentioned. So there's, less stress about getting college credits while still kind of exploring getting some animal contact and things like that, doing some shadowing and exploring what um, different careers with animals might look like, whether it's a veterinarian or working in animal refuge, things like that. So that's a great one for first-time students. Again, 12 days, so a way to kind of dip your toes in. Promise the days fly by, even if it seems like a long time. No matter how long the trip is, it always seems to be too short. But another great one for middle school students who are interested in scuba diving, they may or may not be certified, is our Bonaire Open Water program. So if students are already scuba certified, they can earn their advanced open water certification. And if it's your first time ever diving, they can earn their PADI Open Water. It's a really great option for middle school students who want to do a scuba trip, but perhaps are apprehensive about living on a boat. Bonaire is great. There's lots of easy and accessible shore diving. It's a fun island to explore. This year they'll be staying on a lovely beachfront villa. It has a great snorkel spot right in front of it for free time. They'll also get to help out with some coral restoration. They'll be volunteering with a sea turtle conservation organization, which is really cool. They'll get to test out windsurfing with a windsurfing lesson, some kayaking, and the highlight for everyone is visiting a donkey sanctuary. There's actually, I think, a donkey live cam like 24/7, so you can check it out on Google if you want to see what the donkeys are up to. But we always get tons of pictures of students with donkeys from that program.
Of course, as you would expect in Bonaire.
Yeah.
Lots of donkeys. Cool. I'll talk a little bit about some of our Caribbean programs that are really great first, Broadreach programs. In particular, we have a handful of 12-day programs. Those are the shortest programs that we run across the board. And a bunch of those are in the Caribbean that start and end at our base in St. Martin. So if you haven't been to that airport before, it's a really easy airport to get sort of in and out of. And we have a few hundred students that do that every year. So in particular, the arrival system is a very well-oiled machine at this point. We have a lot of support there in the Caribbean with a whole logistics team and our leadership team that are helping make things run smoothly. These are all going to be boat-based programs out of the Caribbean, so they're live aboard. They don't stay in hotels or villas or anything like that for the whole program duration. When we pick them up from the airport, they go straight to our base and they'll spend their first night living on the boat. For students who may be nervous about scuba diving or who can't scuba dive, we have middle school and high school 12-day sailing and snorkeling programs. So these are really amazing opportunities for students to feel what it's like to live on a boat, if that's something they haven't done before, to learn a bunch of sailing skills and also visit lots of different islands. They do some really cool water sports. They get to do some little hikes, some small boat sailing, and a bit of community service as well. So those are really great starter programs full of adventure. Those days, like Bethany said, fly by. They're full of lots of different activities, and it really feels like they're experiencing something different. They're getting out of their normal routines, and I think that has a lot of value. There is also a 12-day middle school and high school scuba and sailing program. So very similar. They don't have to have any certifications or experience in scuba or sailing to join that program. So it's a perfect first place to start. We love starting with our students diving from square one, because the way that we teach diving is a bit more conservative than what the current industry standards are, in terms of our ratios and depths and things like that. We have so much experience in teaching teenagers how to dive, that starting from the beginning with us is really wonderful. They don't have to do any book work or anything like that before they come. That program, they do have the opportunity to earn their advanced open water if they come with their open water. So that might be a program where a student would come and do their open water one summer and the advanced open water the following summer, or just come certified and want to build on that a little bit. And then for middle schoolers, we have an additional 12-day option that is a blend of scuba diving and sailing and marine biology. So for those kids who are really excited about marine animals and learning about them, they might have lots of questions. My kids have lots of questions about marine animals. And so it's great to have a resource in their instructors to answer some of those questions. I think it's really amazing when a student, especially those younger students, go on a dive and they see an animal and they come out of the water back on the boat and they have all these questions they want to know about that animal. And so those marine biology programs have these very kind of fluid lessons and discussions that happen, that really enhance students' interest in marine science. It's very low stress. It's not like an academic program that has a bunch of tests or anything. It's just nurturing their interest in a really wonderful way. The next sort of step from that is we have a high school, slightly longer program that's 17 days. It's very popular. It's our marine biology voyage. And that program, again, is blending sailing and scuba diving and marine science, but it does have a 2 college credit academic curriculum in marine science. So it's really giving students something to come away from the program with. So not only are they earning their scuba and sailing certifications, but they have these 2 college credits to show for their summer experience. I think like some of the pictures on this slide, that's like dissecting a fish, like while wearing bathing suits on the back of the boat. It's not like traditional classroom learning. And so I think it integrates really well with the experience that they're having. And for students that are excited about marine science, it's like a whole different level of opportunity than what they're able to do in like their, high school biology class. It's the program that I did my very first summer that I worked here. I was not a teenager at the time, and I learned to scuba dive. I got my scuba certification with one of our high school marine biology boats, and so it's a program that's very close to my heart. I think in particular, seeing the students bond with each other over that shared interest was really special. I think a lot of them didn't have their normal friends that were like excited to talk about marine biology all the time, and to have that group of people bond over that shared interest was something that was really special to see. They were really soaking it in.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot of students start with their Broadreach journey on those marine bio voyages.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into some frequently asked questions. So, of course, we're here talking to parents all year long, and we tend to get a lot of questions that we know parents want to ask. So first off, we get tons of questions about travel. Carly, can you talk about travel to and from
Yeah.
program?
Yeah, for sure. So it works a little bit differently for different programs based on where they're going. But the things that go across all of our programs is that we will send students a Broadreach shirt, a specific shirt for that summer that they are instructed to wear on travel day. It's a really great way for students to be able to pick each other out in the airport. And like for our Caribbean programs, our travel days match up for different sessions of different programs. So for example, we might have a couple of middle school boats that are starting on the same day as a couple of high school boats. So there's usually like a good Broadreach contingency that might be traveling into St. Martin in particular on those travel days, which is a nice support system. We, of course, know all the students' flight information, and so we can track if there's any delays or things like that. We know exactly when to expect them. For younger students, Depending on the airline, traveling as an unaccompanied minor is something a lot of our students will do. Airlines require it for certain ages, and then it's an option on different airlines for different ages. That is the airline providing support for the student and checking in with parents along the way, helping them get from one gate to the other if they've got a connecting flight. And then we have to sign for them when they get to us. And so it's a great peace of mind for parents that the students have the support of the airline if they haven't done that sort of travel on their own before. We also have families that travel with their student to the program destination. I think especially like post-COVID with lots of remote work, we've got parents who are saying, oh, well, I'll just come down and hang out in St. Martin and work there for a while the student is on the trip. So it helps them, again, with peace of mind to be able to travel with their student and then hand them off to us at the airport when they get there. I think you can see in this picture, usually instructors will have a sign, a special Broadreach sign. They'll be wearing a Broadreach polo shirt. They often have a Broadreach flag so that it's really easy for students to see where they need to go once they arrive there. We provide a lot of details about how to fill out customs forms and what to look for once they get through security. And then students will call home that day that they arrive as soon as possible, depending on what their connectivity is and where they're headed to. If they're going to one of our boat programs, they all sit down at our base and take turns calling home to make sure that you know that they got to us safe and sound. So there's a lot of preparation that we put into travel days because it is such a high stress experience for parents that they're nervous about their students getting from place to place. We really front load with a lot of information, and we're here 24/7 during the summer. So even if it's a late arrival or an early arrival, we are here in the US to support families and answer any questions that come up during those travel days. Usually goes very smoothly, and it's I think a big source of pride for a lot of students to be able to navigate that themselves. It's a really kind of intentional part of the growing experience that comes with our programs.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like I did that by myself. Something I
Yeah.
was nervous about.
Yeah.
All right. Skip one. Okay. Talking a little bit about health and safety on program. Do you want to take that one, Carly, as well?
Yep. Yep. So of course, like our number one question that we get is, are you going to keep my students safe? Are they going to be safe on their program? I think it's important to note that travel has inherent risks. And what we do is we try to minimize those risks as much as possible. There's so many ways. I could spend a full hour talking about the ways that we think about safety and risk management on our programs. The shorter, I guess, webinar friendly answers are that we have emergency action plans for each of our destinations. And so for different islands in the Caribbean where we're sailing, if we're in the Bahamas or Costa Rica or somewhere else, we have plans for all different kinds of things that are very unlikely to happen. But if they do, we know what to do, where to go, where the clinics are that are close by, doctors that we've worked with in the past, what our resources are in terms of our local partners and people that have transportation should we need it. We know what to do if something happens. That said, most of the time what happens are things like scrapes or ear infections. That's something that's very common with diving. Different sorts of minor rashes that we get checked out by doctors depending on what the situation is. And so we certainly do take students to the doctor on our programs throughout the summer, but usually it's for very minor things. We are very proud of our safety record over our 30 years, and that's something that we can go into in more detail, but it's not a coincidence. We're not lucky that we've been able to keep our students in one piece for so many years over so many destinations, but we very consciously put plans in action to be able to keep our students as safe as we possibly can. We get a lot of questions about hurricanes, especially for our Caribbean programs. That is something that we are tracking far before it gets on any kind of like US media outlet. We've got weather pattern tracking off the coast of Africa, which is where storms develop. I didn't know that before working for Broadreach, but that's where the hurricanes in the Caribbean come from. And so we are looking at that, looking at contingency plans, rerouting students. Sometimes we've kept boats like in a particular harbor for an extra day or two to allow a storm system to pass through. So there's all kinds of different plans we have in place for weather. The hurricane season in the part of the Caribbean where we are is later than in other places. And so the storms that come through there, and those Leeward Islands in particular, are usually more like September, October. So if we were regularly seeing major storm systems coming through where we were when we're there, I don't think that we would be in business anymore. So that's something that we don't have to worry about too much on a major scale, but we do have minor storms that we're able to avoid. I think it's also really important to know that our instructors are not only highly vetted, but highly qualified. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later, but we have a wilderness first responder, which is sort of like an EMT certification that is on each of our boat, in addition to our support boat that is around where our boats are. With extra expertise and people to support if necessary. So it's not like we have like one camp nurse for 300 students. We have a wilderness first responder on each boat. There's some minor things that fall into the like health and safety category too, like making sure that students are staying hydrated and providing plenty of drinking water, making sure that they're putting on sunscreen and that they're reminding each other to wear sunscreen, which is a great way to get them to actually do it. They'll have like sunscreen parties and they'll put on music and they'll spend 10 minutes making sure that everybody's got sunscreen on or applying it all, to themselves together. So those are things that we think about and we integrate into our, daily plans and training and things like that.
Yeah, it's a big category, but
big category,
definitely a top. Yeah. So if you have specific questions, please feel free, to reach out to us about more specific things. All right, this one, another frequently asked question about what do students eat? It's so important. Food plays a big role in our daily lives. And if you have a picky eater or a student with dietary restrictions, that's huge. Can be a huge concern and stressor for you and your students. So somewhat depends on what the dietary restriction is and where your program is headed. But for the vast majority of our programs, dietary restrictions or preferences, we are able to accommodate those, especially our boat-based programs. They're self-catered, students cook for themselves, as well as a lot of our other trips. We'll have, a cook team and clean team. So students will take turns cooking for each other. We have a galley guide or a recipe book with all the ingredients stocked up, and we've got those dietary restrictions kind of worked into that. So for example, if for gluten-free students, there's this substitution, or for lactose intolerant students, there's the substitution. For vegetarians, for vegans, so there's options for them. The recipes themselves tend to be crowd pleasers, things that kids like to eat. So things like burrito bowls, pastas, stir fries, a lot of things that you can kind of go putting in, maybe rice and adding the different ingredients that you like, or you can eat, so that makes it easier kind of to adapt to different tastes. But apart from that, always have plenty of snacks on board or on our program, so that the students are being very active throughout the day. So it's important to have those extra calories on hand to help out. And usually have things like on our boat price programs, especially, there'll always be things to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or other kinds of sandwiches, things like that, in case the meal that they like is not something that they want to eat, or buttered noodles, whatever. We've had students like that that's what they want to eat. So we're able to be pretty adaptable to different preferences and things. But again, if you have questions, let us know. We actually, if you follow us on Instagram, we've been taste testing a few new recipes. I think we've tried 4 different ones to add, and we have some people with dietary restrictions in the office. So it's, oh, what did you think of the gluten-free option? Or like, what did you think of the vegetarian option? So um, food's really important for us. We love to eat, and we want to make sure that your student is getting fed and enjoying the meals as much as possible. All right. Medication on program. I have a lot of students that take medication on their program. We will send every student who enrolls, along with their enrollment tee, a pill pack. It's not mandatory to use. We just find it can really help students stay organized, as well as make sure that they're bringing the correct number of pills for each day of program. Um, on a side note, highly recommend bringing the medication in your carry-on bag instead of your checked bag in case that gets lost. Um, but yes, if can use those pill packs for any medication your student's taking, whether it's vitamins, over the counter, etc. On the first day of program, instructors will take any controlled medications that students are taking. We do have a med form that you'll fill out, so we'll know which medications your students will need to take. They can also take, if your student's taking like an allergy medicine or something like that, um, they're happy to take that as well if your student just doesn't want to have to be responsible for it for safekeeping. We do try to encourage students to be responsible for remembering to take their medication. So asking, hey, I need my morning pills, or I need my pill at lunchtime, whatever. But the instructor will be there to remind them to take that medication if needed. Another one, communication. Um, I know Carly already mentioned our phone policy. That Broadreach is a phone-free experience now. In the past, we would just take SIM cards, but we found that with just Wi-Fi being sometimes more available and just using different apps and cameras and stuff, that we decided to go phone-free, and we've had actually really amazing feedback from both students and parents on how much students loved not having their phone on hand all the time. So we do recommend that students bring their phones for travel day, but instructors, like Carly mentioned, will hold on to it during programs. So recommend bringing a camera with you, bringing a watch with you to tell time. If you have an MP3 player, remember iPods, something like that to play music, kind of thinking of the different things we use our phone for more than just phones, to kind of come prepared with those kinds of things. Of course, that kind of, for a lot of parents, adds an extra level of anxiety. Like, I won't be able to, call my student no matter what at all times. However, we do have other ways that you'll be able to keep tabs on what they're doing on program. We have each student, you can see the girl to the left here, and each take turns being a leader of the day, and they will write a blog post, kind of a summary of what they did that day, that will be posted to a trip updates page. So you'll get an email notification every day and get to follow along with what they did. Along with that, we have a shared Google photo album. So the instructor phones will sync through the cloud, and we'll pull those photos over that they took, as well as any maybe from GoPros or things like that, or other cameras, and we'll put those in a Google photo album as well. Some locations don't have great Wi-Fi connectivity, so you might not get one trip update one day, you might get two the next day. Same with photos. Sometimes it can be hard to sync the amount of photos, but we really aim to get those photos synced over so you have a ton of pictures to kind of follow along from home what they're doing. In addition, the instructors can return the students' phones once a week for a designated call home day. We try and have that be on the weekends so that, parents are more likely to be at home and available to chat. Um, and parents can always call us at BRHQ if you need to get in touch with a student urgently in between that call home. We have a 24/7 emergency line during the summer while we have trips in the field. You can give us a call. We can reach out to the instructor on program so that they can get back in touch with you if you need something more urgently. All right, that was our FAQs, but I know we've got some questions in the Q&A box. Let's see, so feel free if you can think of more questions, you can write those in. See, the first one we have, if for the Intro to Marine Bio, which is our middle school Intro to Marine Bio program, if students can participate if they have never done scuba diving before.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really great program for students who have never done any scuba diving before. Often they have maybe been snorkeling or swimming in the ocean or something like that. They don't have to have any specialized skills though to join that program. So we'll start from the very beginning with scuba diving. She doesn't have to come with any experience at all.
We just touched on this a bit, but a student takes medication morning and evening. Does someone help monitor that? So yeah, the instructor can help absolutely to remind them to take their medication.
Yeah. Our pill packs are really great ways to organize medication, and we use those for controlled substances, but they can also use them for not controlled substances. And there's actually like a little sheet where we have the student and instructor like initial or sign off when they've taken it. So there's a whole system in place for making sure that students take their medication when they need to.
All right. Is there anything else required besides a passport?
Not specifically. A passport is required for different places. They require them to be valid for different durations. So, for example, St. Bart's is one of the islands that we often visit in the Caribbean on our Caribbean programs, and they require a 6-month validity. So, just make sure that the passport doesn't expire within 6 months of the program. Besides that, we have a full packing list. So most of the stuff on our packing lists for all of our programs will be things that you probably already have. They're pretty casual. And for example, our scuba programs, we provide all of the gear that you would need to scuba dive without any extra fees, which I think is really nice. Different programs do it different ways, and we've done it different ways in the past, but all the scuba gear that they need will be included and provided on site, so they don't have to bring anything like that. But otherwise, we really focus on our packing lists and change them from year to year based on feedback from staff and from families. And so sticking to those packing lists will be kind of what else you need in terms of stuff to bring.
Yes. Here's a specific question about our Bonaire trip. Wondering about how we do roommates or how many girls will be per room. Do you know the answer to that one, Carly?
That's a good question. I think the idea for those like sort of villa-based programs like that is to have 2 or 3 students of the same gender in a room together. And I believe we've just confirmed that they will each have their own beds, that they're not doing any bed sharing on that program this year. I'm like 98% sure. The villa that we stay in or that we're staying at for that program has beds that can be separated, like king beds that can be separated into twins. So we do sometimes share beds, and sleeping looks a little bit different on our different programs, but specifically for Bonaire, I believe this year the students are all should all have their own beds, sharing rooms, separate beds.
I saw we had one earlier about hurricanes, but I think we answered that already. Oftentimes, if there is a storm, it's pretty anticlimactic if there a little bit of rain. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Talking about if it's too late to get on a payment plan for Bahamas program in July. I think feel free to reach out to us about that. No, I don't think it's too late to get on a installment program. So as long as it's paid, I think 30 days before the trip leaves, then feel free to reach out to us about that, and we can work out a program for you.
Yeah.
Have we ever had a kid that did a scuba trip and they didn't end up liking it? If they don't do scuba, do they just hang out with the group? Can they snorkel and not scuba? That's a great question.
That is a good question. Yeah, it doesn't happen very often. Usually the students, even if they're nervous about scuba diving before the program, they tend to get excited about it when they're actually doing it, especially because the instructors take it really slowly and step by step. When I did my scuba certification, like I said, I was not a teenager, and so I was not quite so easy to adapt to that sort of different feeling. It was a little bit more challenging, I think, for me than for some of the teenagers who had also never done it before. But the instructors, I like to note that the instructors that are teaching them scuba diving are the instructors that are on their boat with them the whole time. So doing all of their other fun adventures, activities, their meals and things like that. They don't get like separated out to a separate scuba instructor, which I think is how some other organizations do it. The students like leave their core instructors and go and work with a scuba instructor. We don't do it that way. And so I think there was the relationship that develops between the instructor and students make it even more comfortable for them to start scuba diving if they're nervous about it. I know it's like a side answer to what you actually asked. It's okay if they don't do the scuba diving. Like I said, it's pretty rare. They can usually snorkel. And I mentioned before that we have these support boats that are near where our program boats are. And so those are our leadership team and extra people that can help out. And so if there's a student who is really not into the scuba diving and wants to go snorkeling while the group is going scuba diving, that is often something that we can arrange. I wouldn't say it's like a planned part of the program. It's more of an exception than like a set plan B, but certainly we have some resources depending on what else is going on, that is a potential solution.
Yeah, and oftentimes I think if there's a student who's not as into the diving, the skipper on board will get them more involved in the sailing portion, so they kind of get to be a lot more involved and learn more in depth about the sailing part of the program.
For sure.
Does happen sometimes.
Yeah.
See, when booking flights, is there a recommended arrival and departure time?
Yeah, we try to keep our flights very flexible. And so we don't have like one set flight from the US that all the students have to go on. Students are coming from lots of different places. And so that's not very convenient for a lot of families. For our Caribbean programs, for example, we just ask students to arrive on the program start date between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m., which really accommodates pretty much every flight that goes into St. Martin from the US on those dates. And so we'll collect those details, those flight details for each student. So yes, there is a recommended arrival and departure time. And once the student's enrolled, we have a whole like how to book flights document that's on our customized portal, which is where you find information from us and we get information that we need from you. It's like a lovely checklist for those type A's like myself so that you know exactly what you need to get done. And that how to book flights information sheet has those arrival and departure times for each of our programs, some other guidelines about flights, and then also contact for our partner travel agency, which is called Sequel Travel, and they can help book flights if you'd like. We don't recommend or we don't require families to book through them, but it's an option if you need support.
Awesome. Let's see if there's any other questions come in. I will take time now just to say that if you think of other questions after the fact, or again, if it's something kind of more specific to your situation, please feel free to reach out to us directly. I have our email addresses here on the screen. Carly's is chill or chill at gobroadreach.com, so easy to remember. Mine is bremington@gobroadreach.com. And then also feel free to give us a call if you have other questions. We love talking to parents and to students and talking about our programs. So always thrilled to connect. Oh. So are you aware of accommodations for parents? I guess if you're planning to travel to program with your student, if we have like recommended accommodations for parents that will be traveling with their students to leave them a program, I assume. Carly, do you
Yeah,
know?
we can talk about that. Yeah, it depends on the particular program. They would be separate from where the students are staying, of course, but we can talk about where they'll, what might be a good location. based on where we are, for sure.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon or morning or whatever time it is where you are. We appreciate you taking the time to listen to us. Thanks for your patience with all of our technical difficulties today. And yeah, we look forward to connecting with you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.